Hey guys, I'm Sophia Starla, and if you're a new friend, welcome to my channel, and if you're an old friend, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the It's Judy Time palette by PIXI, and this is the It's I Time palette. So if you're interested in seeing what I have to say about this palette, then stay tuned because I'm about to review it. A little preface about this palette. I honestly have never heard about It's Judy Time. I know that she's a YouTuber, and I think it's really awesome when YouTubers get to collaborate with beauty brands. But I guess It's Judy Time never was really on my radar just because, I don't know. I feel like people tend to watch YouTubers that kind of look like them, like call me crazy, but when I first got on YouTube, I was looking at girls who had my same skin tone so I could mimic their makeup exactly. And so maybe that's why I didn't know about It's Judy Time, and I don't know if any of you guys haven't heard about It's Judy Time before, but I would love for you guys to go and check her out. I saw some other YouTube channels talking about this palette, and immediately I was drawn to it, and so I decided to check her out, and I really liked all of her content. I think she's a really sweet person. Like, you can just tell that she's very, very genuine, and I love that about YouTubers. But I specifically love the colors in this palette. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I definitely need that column right here and these two rows. Like, I just needed it for those alone. But anyways, you can find this palette at Target or on the PIXI Beauty website, and it retails for $24. There are 12 shades in this palette, so there are also 6 matte shades and 6 shimmer / metallic-y shades. So it's roughly like $2 per shade. I've been looking everywhere and I cannot find how much product is in each pan. When I find that out, I will put that information in the box below this video right here. Like, it's really funny though. One thing that you definitely do need to remember: when you use this palette, you have to use a synthetic brush. You're just not going to get the same payoff when you use a natural fiber brush. And when you guys see the swatches, which I will play for you next, the swatches, like, it's so funny because usually when you do swatches with a finger, you get better payoff than you would with a brush, but not with these colors. And I'm not sure what it is specifically about the formula, because the ingredients don't really look like anything you haven't seen before, but for some reason, like, the finger swatches came out looking really bad, and the brush swatches are like perfection. So definitely keep that in mind when you're using this palette. Make sure that you have some good synthetic brushes to apply this with. I just wanted to let you guys know that I primed my arm with my Milani eyeshadow primer, and I cleaned off my brushes after each swipe in the eyeshadow pans. One of those really interesting cosmetic companies that's not really high-end, but it's not really low-end either. So I'm not really sure if it's like 100% drugstore, but it's definitely not high-end. Like, you wouldn't find it at Sephora. The price, I feel like, is pretty decent for what you're getting. So one of the things that I really like to judge palettes on is whether or not it's an all year round palette or a seasonal palette. Like, will it be better for spring, summer, winter, fall, like that? This palette, I feel like, is going to be a very good all year long palette. And I think that a lot of companies are switching more towards having palettes that are better for all year long, and you can do that by having a lot of neutrals, and that's what this palette does have. It's mostly neutrals. It doesn't have like a significant pop in color. Like, it's kind of broad spectrum of colors. I will say that I did have a super hard time finding this palette in Target. I don't know if it just keeps selling out. This palette must keep selling out because literally I went to about 4 Targets and I couldn't find it until I went to the very last one, and then they only had one of the It's Eye Time palettes left. They had 2 of the lip palettes, but the lip palette really just did not speak to me as loudly as this eye palette. I'm kind of an eyeshadow junkie. I think you guys probably can tell that by now, and this palette really was just dying to be a part of my collection. I love this palette has a good mix of shimmer and matte shades, and I really feel like this palette would be a great addition or starter palette for someone who is just getting comfortable with eyeshadow, someone who's just beginning to dip their toe in the makeup pool. There are just so many pretty shades that look amazing by themselves on your lid, so you could just like put one on your lid. You don't have to blend it with anything else. Maybe add a transition shade and then put one of these on your lid by itself and it'll look amazing. Like, I've been playing with this palette for about 2 weeks, I want to say, and for the most part, like, you can make really complicated looks with this palette, but also it's really pretty to just make a little simple look. If you like the makeup that I have on right now, I'm going to be putting up a video showing a look with this palette. I haven't done a drugstore makeup routine, and I wanted to use this one for that. I don't, to be honest with you guys, like, I don't super love drugstore eyeshadows. Like, I find them really hard to work with for the most part. Like, they can be really patchy, they don't last as long, the color just is unreliable. But this palette really, really impressed me, and probably because it's not quite in a drugstore brand. It's a little higher up above than a drugstore brand. These colors, like, they're so freaking silky and just buttery and amazing. Like, when you touch, they kind of remind me honestly of the ColourPop eyeshadows in that they just feel they feel a little soft. They're very soft, but they're very, very powdery. Like, one thing that does irritate me about this palette is that there's a lot of fallout. The packaging for this palette is pretty good. It has like a pretty sturdy plastic case and you know, a see-through lid so you can see all the colors before you buy. And then it also came with this little mirror that you can place on it wherever you want, which I thought was really cute. I haven't decided where I want to put it, if I'm going to put it like on the back or like actually in the lid somewhere. I don't know. On top of the lid seems to be the most conventional place. It has this little like snap to close cork right here, which I thought was interesting and pretty helpful. I'm just hoping that I don't slip when I'm opening it some point in the future and like dig a nail into one of the pans, because that would be awful. So yeah, this is kind of tricky. I would prefer if it was a magnet, but you know, you can't be that picky. Another thing I really love about this palette is that almost every shade is warm toned, which means that it's going to be very flattering for women of color who have warm undertones like myself. Another thing that I really would love to know about this palette, and I haven't seen anywhere, is whether or not it's going to be permanent, a permanent palette from PIXI, or if it's just going to be until supplies run out. I'm going to keep on looking for that, and I will put that information in the box below as well, because, you know, limited edition palettes are not really that fun. It's just kind of disappointing for people when they can't get their hands on a palette that everybody was talking about. So hopefully they can keep this palette around for the long haul, because I think that it would be a great item for PIXI. If you guys have any questions about this palette, please feel free to leave me a comment. I will be sure to get back to you as soon as I possibly can, or you can find me on any of my other social media. I will always answer you guys, because that's just how I roll.